So you need your vocals professionally mixed. And you know what? So did I a while back. However, we're broke and we can't pay somebody to do that for us. So what do? We learn how to do it the hard way. Luckily for you, I've got a good amount of experience in vocal mixing. Let me show you what I mean. Now, I don't know about you, but I think I did a pretty good job of my vocals, and I think that you're gonna learn a lot from this video. This song is my song that I recorded, produced, mixed and mastered, and released under my name, Adriel Rivera. The song's called Carried Away, and if you want to listen to it, feel free to click the eye icon up here. It'll take you to the song, but also check the links in the description. It's on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, anywhere you get your music. What's up, geniuses? My name is Adriel Rivera, and welcome back to the channel where you'll learn to show your genius. Today I'm going to be showing you how to mix your vocals in FL Studio 20. I've made a similar video to this in the past, which is actually my most viewed video at the moment with about 200,000 views.
No, that's a lot of
views. And since that was posted back in 2018, it's 2020 now, at least for me. Maybe you're watching this in the future and it's 2030. If it is, am I famous yet? It's been a while, and I know a lot more about vocal mixing than I did back then. My techniques have changed, a lot of things have changed, my freaking setup has changed, so why not get back into it? Let's revamp that tutorial and show you what I'm doing now, and let's just see how it goes. I do think that there's still a lot of valuable information in that other tutorial that I did, so if you want to watch that, how to make your vocals sound professional in FL Studio, click the icon up here. There's still some good gold nuggets in there that I think you guys will really appreciate, and I'm probably gonna go into not as much detail here because I've already explained it before. Don't get me wrong, I'm gonna be going into detail here, but in the other video, I went to a lot of detail. So, like I said, my techniques have changed, but overall, the way I explain certain stuff, you're probably still gonna learn a lot from that video. So, I'd watch it anyway. But before we get into the tutorial, I gotta show you guys something. Welcome back to my wall. As you can see, there's a chair here now. I think it looks pretty dope. However, I have no idea about the placement. I didn't think this through, and we have a guitar in the way. So if I wanted to put this in the corner, it'd be hitting the guitar, and I could rearrange these. The guitar does not fit anywhere else besides here. It's very complicated, but that's not the point. It's blank right there. We don't have a silver play button yet. And in order to finish this wall, we need a silver play button. So what do you need to do? Subscribe. And if you don't subscribe, you'll fail. Make sure you subscribe. We don't want this spot to be blank for too long. I feel like this lighting makes me look like a villain. Welcome back to FL Studio. First things first, when you're making a good vocal, you want to get a good vocal recording. Now, when it comes to getting a good vocal recording, you're gonna want to make sure that you have a nice, crisp, clean vocal. By that, I mean you want to have no reverb in the background of your vocal, because you can always add reverb later. You also want to make sure that the gain is set to the right point so that you don't have any clipping in your vocal. So by clipping, that means that the distortion, let's say if you get too close to the microphone and it gets really loud and distorted, then that's clipping. You don't want that in your vocal. You also want to have at least a decent microphone. You can use a lot of microphones, and I say a decent microphone because if you know what you're doing with your vocals, you could probably use a crappy microphone, like a phone microphone, or I don't know, like a PS4 microphone. The PS5 is coming out soon. I don't play the PS anything, but I might try it. You could use any mic to record your vocals. However, the better the mic you get, obviously the better recording you're gonna get, and obviously the better vocal you're going to receive. To combat the reverb in my room, I have a lot of furniture. As you can see, there's a bed. I just got a new chair, which I'll show you guys later. Well, actually, no, you've already seen it. There's a chair here now. I also have carpet in my room. This carpet absorbs a lot of sound. It's not a special carpet, but that's just what carpets do. And any sort of furniture that you have will diffuse the sound reflections on the walls, and overall, the more stuff you have in your room, the less reverb you're gonna be getting. Now, there's things that you can do. You can get acoustic panels. Actually, I had acoustic panels in my last setup. I still have them. They're in my closet. I haven't set them up because I felt like I didn't have the need for it. My setup is pretty good right now. I do plan on putting more acoustic panels back on that wall. However, I don't think it's necessary for me right now. Most people probably will benefit from just having more furniture. And plus, it looks pretty nice. Now, don't get me wrong, acoustic foam, acoustic panels, that's good to have in your room. But if you get a set of like 12 panels, it's probably not gonna do too much of a difference. Get a well-furnished room. That's my suggestion, recommendation. I was going on a little bit of a rant. Just get a clean room. Like I said too, you wanna make sure that the gain is set right. Make sure that when you sing into your microphone, you're not clipping, you're not getting any sort of distortion, because that distortion is gonna be really hard to remove, almost near impossible to remove from your recording. You can always add distortion if you want to, like XXX Tentacion's song, I forgot what it's called, Look at Me, that song. He has distortion on his vocals, but more than likely it was recorded with a good microphone. Actually, I have no idea how it was recorded, but you can do the same thing and add distortion to get that same effect. However, you cannot remove distortion. The same thing with reverb. You can add reverb if you want to, but you cannot remove reverb. So you want to make sure that you set the gain right so that your vocal does not distort and it sounds very good to the listener. And then, like I said, decent microphone. The microphone that I use is the Shure SM58. It's a good microphone, good quality, $100. I always put my links in the description for Amazon and all my equipment. So that's step one, is to record a good vocal. However, step two is pitch correction. When it comes to pitch correction, a lot of people skip this step. I see it a lot for specifically rappers. I know some people that skip the pitch correction, and most of the time, that pitch correction is the main thing that's gonna get your vocal to sound more professional. When it comes to pitch, when it comes to singing, I think that the closer you are to the right pitch, the better it's going to sound. We are tuned to a system. Our ears are naturally designed to hear when things are on or off pitch. Unless you're tone deaf, then that sucks. But most people can tell when something is off pitch. So get to pitch correcting your vocals so that it can be on pitch. People also call this auto-tune, but auto-tune, there's a difference. Auto-tune is a plugin, okay? Auto-tune is a plugin. Pitch correction is the general taking the pitch of something and correcting it to the right pitch. The more you know. So how do we even do that in FL Studio? Well, the one thing that I use all the time is Newtone. And this I know is, I think, only available in the Signature Edition. You can also buy this plugin separately if you want. It's not as much as the Signature Edition, but I'd recommend getting the Signature Edition of FL Studio. Basically, with Newtone, you have 3 different knobs: center, variation, and transition. The center knob is what takes your vocal and puts it onto the right pitch, the nearest pitch that it's closest to. So if you see, I take this off center, it's off center. Bring up the center knob, everything gets on center. Next we have variation. Variation is like how much vibrato is in your voice. If you don't know what vibrato is, I can't do vibrato, but a lot of singers can. It's that when your voice like moves back and forth, if you know what I'm talking about, it's like, ah! I can't do it. Anyway, vibrato, or the variation, basically takes that vibrato and makes it less so that it sounds better. Not better, but sounds more straight tone. And that could be something that you should really like, or you might want to add more variation so it sounds like there's more vibrato. However, I recommend bringing down the variation more often than bringing it up, because bringing it down is going to make it sound more on pitch. And then the next is a transition knob. I don't really mess with this too much, but it's basically the transition from each pitch to the next. So in order to get your vocal into here, whenever you record something, you just grab it from the sampler, drag and drop it into Newtone. And I'm not going to do that right now because I've already put this into Newtone. However, what you do from there is you bring the center all the way up so everything is to the nearest pitch. And then what I like to do is I like to bring the variation all the way down so it sounds super auto-tuned, but this will help you get to that pitch a lot faster because since there's no variation, everything is just on pitch. So let me show you what I mean. Of all the things I do just to see you, I do wanna see you. Oh, you got me carried away. So sounds pretty good, right? However, there's some parts of this vocal where it's off pitch. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna look for those parts in your vocal and bring them on pitch. The only thing you gotta do is look for the specific pitch that you're trying to correct, grab it by left clicking, and then drag it to the part that you want it to go to. So, the things I do just to see you, I do wanna see you. Oh, you got me carried away. That's a lot better. Now there's still some pitches that I have to correct. However, I've already done all this. So once you do that pitch correction, you're gonna end up with something along the lines of this. All the things I do just to see you, I do wanna see you. Oh, you got me carried away. And as you can hear in the recording, it's a pretty decent recording. There's not that much reverb in the recording itself. The distortion is not present, so we did a really clean recording. And the microphone I used, like I said, is a Shure SM58, so it's a good quality microphone, good clean recording. Let's go. Another thing I want to mention before we move on to the next step is after you put everything on pitch, you're going to want to bring the variation back up just so it doesn't sound so robotic. And if there's some parts that sound too weird, let me see if I could give you an example. The things I do just to see you, I do wanna see you. Oh, you got me carried away. So let's say that there's specific pitches that sound off. Maybe you sang it weirdly and the variation is just way too much. However, everything else sounds very good. You're gonna wanna click this gear icon. This is gonna give you the power to edit this specific pitch like a god. You're gonna wanna click this pitch and then mess with the variation, which you can see down here. You bring it up and down, and this is essentially what this knob does. However, it does it for this specific pitch. So the more closer you bring it to the middle, the less variation is gonna be, and you can vary it up even more. Let me show you how it sounds like with a bunch of variations so you get an idea. Let's say we wanted to bring it to minimal variation. That's how it sounds like. Just something to keep in mind for you guys. So after pitch correction, the next thing that I do for my vocals is I put a compressor. So I use Fruity Limiter because Fruity Limiter has a compressor in it and it gives you this nice little visualization, so it's easier to see what you're doing. So I'm not going to go into so much detail in this video because I've already made a video all about compression and all the things that you need to know about compression. If you want to check that out, feel free to click the icon up here. That video is going to explain everything for you, but I'll make sure that I say just enough so that you have a better understanding when I talk about compression here. So basically, compression just takes the loud and quiet parts of your vocal and brings them closer together in volume to reduce the dynamic range. In order to get to the compressor in the Fruity Limiter, what you gotta do is just click this comp button and it's gonna bring you to the compressor tab. The 5 main knobs you're probably gonna wanna pay attention to: threshold, the knee, the ratio, attack, and release. So the threshold, in simple terms, it's where the compression starts. The threshold is measured in decibels, which is basically the volume. This threshold is going to tell the compressor when to start compressing. Next, we're going to talk about the ratio. The ratio, in simple terms, is how much compression is being applied. This also is measured in decibels. If you can see on the top left corner over here, it says comp ratio 2.6 to 1. Basically, if we say it like this, X to 1, where X is the amount of decibels, every X decibel is converted to 1 dB. That means right here, the comp ratio is 2.6 to 1. Every 2.6 decibels is being converted to 1 decibel. Next, the knee, in simple terms. That's the gradualness of a compression. It smooths out where the compression starts to get a more natural sound. This just gives you more natural compression. My little brother's playing in the living room. I have no idea if you can hear him or not. I hope not. The attack, in simple terms, is how long it takes for the compression to start. Attack is measured in milliseconds, so if we bring the attack up to 129 milliseconds, which you can see by the top thing over here. That means that after 129 milliseconds of the audio starting, that's when the compression is going to start. Or I should say 129 milliseconds after the audio reaches the threshold, the compression is going to start. And then the release, in simple terms, is how long it takes for the compression to finish. So like the attack is measured in milliseconds, the release is also measured in milliseconds. So when it comes to adding a compressor on your vocals, the industry standard is about 2:1 for the ratio, and the threshold is however you feel. For this specific vocal, what I did was I had the threshold at negative 15.9 decibels, the knee at 37%, and the ratio at 2.6 decibels to 1. The attack is at 0 milliseconds, so it happens right away, and the release is short. It's an 8.15 millisecond release. So when it comes to making pop vocals, because I do pop music, having a shorter release is gonna make it more tight, and a short attack as well is going to make it hit right away. So this compression is more for pop vocals. I can say though that most people would probably use this for, even if you're doing hip hop, this is more that radio quality compression from what I know. You're probably gonna wanna put a faster release, faster attack if you're trying to get that radio quality compression. So really quick, let's see how that sounds like.
Oh, all the things I do just to see you. I do wanna see you. Oh, you got me carried away.
That sounds good. Get some water. So next on the list is an EQ. And just like the compression, I made a tutorial all about EQ in FL Studio, and if you want to go watch that tutorial, click the eye icon up here. You already know what to do. You're playing a video game. I found out the reason why he's screaming. Him and my dad are playing a video game. Okay, we're back. The EQ, in simple terms, basically just changes the volume of certain frequencies to accentuate what sounds good in whatever it is you're putting into the EQ. So in our instance, we're putting in our vocals, but however, let's say that you put a trombone or something, some sort of recording of something else, this EQ can help with that as well, because you get to accentuate certain frequencies that you think sound good in that recording. I would say that EQ is probably where most people go wrong. I know when I was first starting, that's where I would go wrong a lot, because I just didn't understand what exactly I was doing. My little brother is still being loud. I can hear him. However, the more you understand what EQ does and how to use it, then you're going to be able to get a better vocal mix, because I feel like once you understand things a lot more, that's gonna help you out in the long run. When it comes to EQing, you don't need to use every single band in your EQ. I used to go crazy with my EQs, and the funny thing is, this looks a little crazy if I'm gonna be honest. However, I did everything with intent. I had a reason for all the things that I did with this EQ, and I'm gonna explain it a little bit. However, I just wanna make sure that I make it clear that you don't need to go crazy with your EQs to get a really good sounding EQ. Like I said, this isn't the best example. However, I make a lot of songs using EQ. I think everybody does. That's the one thing you want to do, is use EQ for your songs. But when I use EQ, I don't go crazy. It's usually just very subtle changes that make a huge difference, because the more crazier you go, the more you might actually be taking away from the quality of the sound in your vocal, or the more you might be adding something that doesn't sound as great. But now I've learned that less is more with my vocals. This instance is a little different, but I'll explain why. First things first, what I usually do is I clear out the low end, and this is something that I always do. However, I cleared out a lot of the low end. The reason why is because in our voice, human voices don't go that low. Anything below like 100 decibels is probably not where your voice is going to be, unless you have a super deep voice. But most of the time, you're probably just gonna wanna cut out those vocals, those frequencies. The reason why is because since your voice doesn't even produce that frequency range, there's no point of having it in your recording, and other things that do, like maybe the humming of your computer in the background of that recording, is not necessary to get your voice to sound great. So you just want to remove that, because anything that's unnecessary, might as well not even keep it in there, because it always has the chance of muddying up your recording. So I removed the low end. However, this is way past the 100 mark. I'll explain that in a little bit. But usually what you want to do is remove the low end. Next, what you want to do is look for muddy frequencies. So by muddy frequencies, I mean things that sound
muddy. Oh, all the things I do just to see you.
That sounds very nasally. It's very resonant, and to me, I like to take that out. I think it sounds a lot cleaner without that resonance in my vocal. I remove that frequency specifically from my vocals. Same thing over here.
Oh, all the things I do just to see you.
That's a more resonant frequency, so I decided to take that out and put it around here. The last thing that I do is I take band 7, raise it up a little bit so that I can add more of a shimmer to my voice. So basically everything that's in the higher end, bringing that up is gonna make my voice stick out a lot more. And by stick out, I mean that in a good way. It's gonna give me some more shine, some more clarity, and I overall think that it sounds pretty great. Now, I boosted this up a lot more than I usually do. The reason why is because I wanted to experiment with this song specifically with a different type of vocal style. And I think it turned out really well. And to give you an example, I'm gonna bring this down all the way.
Oh, all the things I do just to see you.
And then we're gonna bring it back up.
Oh, all the things I do just to see you.
So it has a little more of a shimmer to it, a little more of a shine, and it sounds really great. Going back to having this low end cut out a lot, if I bring this back, you're gonna hear a lot more low end in my vocal. However, that low end clashes with the low end of the song itself, the instrumental. So taking out the low end, a lot of the low end from my vocal makes it a lot nicer to listen to because the whole song as a whole doesn't get
muddy.
So have a listen with the low end.
Oh, all the things I do just to see you. I do wanna see you.
It sounds great. However, you bring it back into the song.
Oh, all the things I do just to see you. I do wanna see you.
It sounds pretty decent. However, if we remove the low end, and let's just solo this for right now.
Oh, all the things I do just to see you. I do wanna see you.
And you bring that into the song.
Oh, all the things I do just to see you. I do wanna see you. Oh, you.
It sounds a lot cleaner in my opinion, and I think a lot of you guys would probably agree as well. Now, one thing I should mention is that you always want to pay attention to your song, the things that are in your song, how your song sounds, because a lot of the time I don't use the same technique when mixing my vocals. And by that, I mean the EQ is never the same. A lot of people like to make presets and reuse those presets every single time that they record a song. However, when it comes to making music, the instrumental for each song is always going to be different. The way you sing in each song or rap in each song is always going to be different. So you always want to make sure that you're taking into account to those specific songs. You always want to mix specifically for that song because there might be certain frequencies in the song itself that you might need to take out for your voice in order for it to fit well with everything else. And overall, just pay attention to what your song sounds like when you're mixing your vocals. So after EQ, what you want to use is something called a de-esser. What a de-esser is it's a plugin that takes away the harsh s and t sounds in your recording so that they don't pierce the ears of your listener. So the de-esser that I use is called Spitfish. It's a completely free de-esser that you can get. I'll make sure to leave it in the link in the description. I plugged that into FL Studio, made sure that I put it onto my vocal, and messed around with some of the settings so that we get a good de-esser. So usually what I do with Spitfish is I use a preset called the Male Voice Hard. When I put that preset on, basically I just adjust using the sense and the depth. It's a very simple plugin, so you're gonna catch on to it really quick. Basically the sense, think of it like the threshold, how we were talking about in the compressor. The sense is the threshold of where it starts, the de-essing, and the depth is how much it actually de-esses. You usually just want to adjust those knobs and get a good de-esser going for you. There's also this listen button when using Spitfish, so if we solo, you only listen to what's being actually de-essed, and that'll help you a lot in finding the right frequencies to start de-essing. And then you might notice as well that I put on the stereo for Spitfish. Spitfish usually converts your stuff to mono for some reason, so enabling the stereo is going to keep it stereo. And when it comes to things like reverb and delay, having that stereo separation is going to make it a lot nicer to listen to. After Spitfish, what you're going to want to do is add some reverb and delay. These are creative plugins, I like to say, and this is where you have, I guess, the most freedom. Not to say that you don't have any freedom when doing all the other effects. However, this is where people really show off their style. So I like to add my own flair using delay and reverb. I do my delay very specifically. Usually what people do is they get Fruity Delay 3 and just plop it in to their mixer channel. However, I like to use Patcher and patch my delay, adding reverb specifically to the delay itself, adding EQ specifically to the delay itself, so it has a really unique sound. If you want to learn how to make delay super uniquely, feel free to, you guessed it, click the eye icon up here. That video is actually doing pretty well. Thank you guys. I think you guys really like my technique, and I'm super happy because I came up with that technique myself. I'm sure there's other people that do it as well, but I figured it out myself, and I'm super happy about that. So thank you guys for liking that video. I think if you haven't watched it yet, you're really gonna like that one because it teaches you a lot about delay. So like I said, I have my delay routed into an EQ. So that EQ is taking out the high end and the low end, making it sound like a radio basically. You know those lo-fi songs that have like the "Hey, it's me calling, I miss you," you know? So basically that's what that EQ does. It makes it sound like that. And then the Fruity Reverb 2 gives that delay some extra reverb. Now I have reverb on the vocal itself right here, but I put extra reverb on the delay so that it sounds more in the background, and it's a very nice effect. I think you guys should really do it. Tutorial on the eye icon up here. And then some reverb. I just do some standard reverbing. It isn't really anything too crazy, nothing too special. I don't go crazy with my reverbs. However, people like Sway Lee, if you listen to Sunflower, you know that song. I'll keep her in check. I think it sounds really cool when he does it. However, for me, I feel like it muddies up my songs too much. So what I do is I keep it more minimal. I don't add too much reverb to the vocal itself. I keep it more towards the dry side, but I always add reverb because you always want some space in your songs. Think of it this way. If you're listening to somebody perform live, you're always going to be in a room that always has some sort of reverb. If you recorded your vocal without any reverb, it's going to sound unnatural. That's what we want. Like I said, we want to record our vocal without any reverb. And the main reason why is because we have more flexibility when adding in reverb afterwards. We can make the sound of the reverb however we want. We can make it sound like we're in a big room. We can make it sound like we're in a small room. And when we perform live, when anybody sings live, you're always in some sort of room that has reverb. You could probably hear the reverb of this room right now. And that's just what happens naturally. If your vocal doesn't have any reverb, it's a little unnatural and it's gonna throw some people off, at least in my opinion. So I always put at least a little bit of reverb, even if it's very minimal. Adding that little touch of realism goes a long way. Now that we have our stylistic effects on, how does it actually sound in the song?
Oh, all the things I do just to see you. I do wanna see you. Oh, you got me carried away. Oh, baby, I do.
That sounds real good. How does that sound in the context of all the instrumental?
Oh, all the things I do just to see you. I do wanna see you. Oh, you got me carried away. Oh, baby, I do.
Pretty good. If you want to listen to this song that I'm super proud of, it's called Carried Away. Feel free to check it out. Links are in the description. Eye icon is up there. And you might have noticed that it's called Quarantine Love Song. That's basically what this song is. It's a love song while being in quarantine. I know right now it's kind of weird because people are like transitioning out of quarantine while also staying in quarantine. It's really weird right now. If you're missing someone and you want to think about them while listening to music, this is a great song to do that for. If you are a rapper and or singer and you're looking for some beats to rap or sing over, feel free to check out my beat store, adrielrivera.com. Links are in the description. this beat for this song, like I said, I produced myself, and all the beats on my beat store are produced by me. Go figure. I post super high quality beats up there. I would use all those beats. However, I decided to give it to you guys because I love and respect your music. Feel free to use my beats, make a dope song, and send it over to me because I'd like to hear what you guys come up with. Also, that wall needs a silver play button. So you know what you have to do? Subscribe! Big thank you to our editor, Fezzy Boy. I really appreciate you guys watching. Stay safe out there. But most importantly, don't be afraid to show your genius.
Baby, you call me, you tell me you're lonely. You know that I get you, but I've been so cooped up in my room, quarantine, gazing